What's up YouTube, and welcome to another draw along with me. Today we've got this sort of liquid metal effect where the text is starting to run and then become a liquid effect down towards the bottom. There's a link in the description to everything you're going to need for today's design, the palette, the font that you can use, as well as a useful video on how you can install fonts. The canvas size for today is 2000 by 2000, and if you're new here, I post Procreate content every single week, so hit that subscribe button down below. And if you want even more tutorials from me, there's a link to my Patreon where you can see the latest 3 up on the screen now. Patrons get access to 3 exclusive tutorials every single month, as well as sneak peeks, early access and more over on my Patreon. There's a link in the description. And if you're interested in any of the equipment I'm using, the Sketchboard Pro, the Paperlike screen cover, or the pen tips, grip and glove, there's links to everything in the description. And with all that said, let's get started. So once you've created your canvas, you're going to want to go up to your layers, and you're going to want to go to your background color, and then we're going to double tap at the bottom of the disk here to change it to black, and then hit done. And then we're going to change our color in the top right hand corner to white by double tapping in the top left hand corner. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go up to our actions, we're going to use the option of add, and we're going to use the option of add text. So you'll get a little bit of text drop in, and if you double tap on the text, you'll get this extra little menu at the top, and then we can grab the keyboard. And I'm going to double tap to go all caps, and we're going to use the word awesome. Then if you double tap and select the text, you can then go ahead and change your font. So we're going to want to go ahead and use the font that's in the description down below. Now if you don't know how to install fonts, there's a link in the description down below, but there is an alternative that's built in, and you should be able to use the one further up, which is DIN condensed there, but I'm going to use the one that I've popped in the description here. So once you've done that, you're going to want to increase your size up a little bit, something around about that sort of size is good, and grab your cursor, and you're going to want to position it slightly higher than the halfway point, or sort of in that first half of the design. Let's actually scale that up a bit bigger. Something like that, and you're going to want to hit the orange line running down the middle of the canvas, and to do that, if you turn on snapping down here, there's a little toggle, and then once we've hit that orange line and you're happy with your positioning, we're going to go ahead and tap on our cursor. Now we're going to go ahead and elongate that text out. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our layers, we're going to go to the text layer, we're going to tap on it, and we're going to rasterize it, which means now it's just a layer like any normal layer that you drew. So you won't be able to change the font or text at this point, so just triple check you're happy with it at this point. We're then going to go ahead and grab our selection tool. We're going to make sure we use the option of rectangle, and you're going to want to turn color fill off. And then zooming in, so you can just go ahead and grab the very bottom edge. You're going to want to sort of just grab here and draw a box across like so. You're then going to want to go to copy paste, and then that will have dropped in your selection on a separate layer. So when we go up to our layers here, we've got a new one. So if we go ahead now and grab our cursor, you'll now see the actual shape that we selected, and then grab the option of freeform, and you'll be able to drag that all the way down. Now you'll notice that there may be a little bit of a gap here and there where you just sort of clipped the very bottom of the text. That's no problem. Just drag this out until it reaches the top, in terms of it touches the very bottom edge of the text. Tap on your cursor, and then you can just go to your eraser. So go up to your eraser, tap on it, and let's just use the option of the monoline brush. Increase the size up just to make life a bit easier and a bit quicker, and then just erase any of the excess above our letters. So just erasing into these gaps. There we go. And you'll start to see sort of the shapes of the letter appear as you erase into it, so then you know where to erase. There we go. The M is good, and the E, you come down here and across. And then once you've erased all the excess, you'll end up with your text nicely dragged out. And then we're going to go up to our layers, and we're going to go ahead and merge those two layers together. So we're going to pinch on both and pinch them together, and that merges the two of them. We're now going to go up to our adjustments. We're going to go to liquefy, and we're going to tap on the options down here, and I'm going to use the option of 12 right. We may come back and use push, and you can see some of my settings there. You can vary them. I'm going to increase the size of this just so I've got some movement. That looks good. So anything size wise with your brush should be okay, but what we want to do is we just want to sort of brush left and right and just create some movement. So as the bottom area is going to be a bit more sort of swirly and curly, up here by the text we don't want to add a lot to it. So if you just go from left to right, that'll very quickly add some movement in there. and then you can hold down in certain areas, increase your brush size, and create some more twirls and curls towards the bottom. And then you can go ahead and just nudge the text a little bit there. So you can go into the text itself just to move it and create some movement in there. And then as you get towards the bottom, you can create way more twirls and push that text out. Now you do want to try and make sure it kind of stays in that sort of area down the middle there. So just pop in that in there. You can, as I mentioned, tap on your liquify options and use the option of push. And I'm going to bring this edge in here. So I'm just going to push that in. And I want my text to go down and then sort of point inwards as it gets towards the bottom. So I'm just going to sort of direct these lines here and push them into a more central point. And likewise here as well. And then make sure everything's nicely symmetrical in terms of where it joins in the middle. And once you're happy with your twirls and curls in your text, you can then go ahead and tap on your adjustments when you're done. Now let's go ahead and add some color in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to our layers. We're going to create a new layer and we're going to go to our color palette. And you'll notice this selection of colors. Now you can do it in any order you like, any color where you like. I'm going to simply grab the first color on that top row and drag it onto the full layer and color the whole thing in. And that's fine, that's what we do want to achieve, and we'll just liquefy all the colors together. So I'm going to go up to my brush library, I'm going to go to airbrushing, and I'm going to use the soft brush at the top. And then I'm going to simply go back to my colors and just start plopping some color on the screen. So I've gone to the orange now, brush size is set to about 9% at the minute. And I'm just going to very randomly, just backwards and forwards, just drop in some color here and there, very randomly, and just cover the whole screen with little blobs of color. And we're going to do that for every color. So then we're going to switch out to then this sort of red tone and then drop some of that in here and there. It's quite bright compared to the background, just a more punchier version. Drop some of that in there. Let's then switch out to the next color, and that's all we need to do really, just very random. So we've got a bit of blue now in here. We can just drop some color in here. Then we're going to go up to our colors again. Let's use the purple. Maybe reduce your brush size if you want to just add in little sort of specific areas of color. So a bit of purple here. And you can start to see sort of where you've started to cluster some color together. So you can then go ahead and drop some color right next to it and just continue to create that random scattering of colors. Let's then go to the final color, which is green in the right hand side of that top row. And then we're going to just go ahead and drop some of that on the screen as well. But I'm trying to just leave a bit more of the background color in here. So I'm dropping some green in, but making sure there's primarily a sort of pinky tone to all of this. And that looks pretty good to me. The only extra thing I'm going to do is go to my colors. I'm going to double tap in the top left hand corner. I'm going to go to my brush library. I'm going to go to painting. I'm going to use the flat brush, and I'm just going to simply add in some very light streaks over the top. It just adds a little bit of extra sort of tonage to it. So just all I'm doing is this, very randomly add in some extra color on top, and that will just create some shimmers in the text as and when we get there. So now we're going to go to our adjustments. We're going to go back to liquify, and then we're going to use the option again of twirl right. And then again, you can just brush your pen left and right. So start off sort of just going left and right and covering the whole canvas. And you can slow it down to get some more movement in there. And you're going to really want to then just go ham and just increase your brush size and just push all of those colors, twirl them all together. And then you can create a lovely little scattering of all that color. Once you're happy with it, you can go ahead and tap on your adjustments at the top here. And then we're going to go ahead and apply that to the text. So we're going to go up to our layers. We are going to go ahead and tap on that layer and clip it to the text. We're then going to go ahead and actually pinch the two together. So now that'll fill the original text as well. So now we only have one layer for the awesome text as it stands. So now we've got that text all with that color in. We're going to go ahead and add in two primary colors that we like the look of the most. Now I really like to add in a bit of green up here and a bit of pink down here, just to give that we've got one tone coming from the top, one tone from the bottom, but within it we've got all these other colours. So I'm going to go to my colours. I'm going to select the green on the right hand side of the palette. I'm going to go to my brush library. I'm going to go back to airbrushing and the soft brush. And then with my brush size set to something quite large, maybe about 20%, we're going to go back to our layers. We're going to tap on that layer and alpha lock it. So now we can only paint within the boundary of the actual text. And in the top left hand corner, I'm just going to sort of very lightly add in a nice spread of green, but enough that you can still see some of the colour come through, but we do have like a primary colour up there. I'm then going to do the same thing. I'm going to go back to my colours and grab the pink at the very beginning of the palette, and then in the bottom right hand corner paint in some pink. So then you end up with all those tones in the middle. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go to our layers. We're going to swipe on that layer to the left hand side and duplicate it. The top one, we want to tap on it and we want to turn off the alpha lock. We're then going to go to our adjustments now, and we're going to use chromatic aberration. And then once you select that, you'll get a little point in the middle. Now from this point, it will now create the effect outwards. So if I swipe from left to right till we get up to roughly around about 65%, it's going to really disperse these colors. Now what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a bit of 3D look to it. So like there's the depth there, and that's the center point. So it's up to you how much you want to add at the top. I think maybe actually going down a little bit more, maybe to something around about maybe 50 would look pretty good, but something between 50 and 65 will look good. And you've split the colors up every time on the outside there. Tap on your adjustments when you're done. We then want to bring these 2 points here a bit closer to the text. So we're going to go to our adjustments. We're going to use the option of distort. And then we're going to want to go ahead and just bring those points across until we can point them inwards like so. So then the corners that I saw there are nicely now tucked into the letters. And then tap on your adjustments when you're done. Then we're going to go to our layers. We're going to tap on that layer, and then we're going to clip it to the original text. Now all that colour is now contained within the original shape. We're then going to go and tap on the N value for normal, and then we're going to scroll up to multiply. This will really start to punch your colours out, and it's up to you how strong you want them to be. You can lower that down to maybe something about 80%, but between 80 and 100 looks pretty good for this. Now the next step is to add in a little bit of a highlight, because we are going to add a highlight tone from the top left hand corner. So we're going to go up to our layers now. We're going to create a new layer. We're going to go back to the original text that's at our base layer, tap on it and use the option of select. But then on the selection options down here, we're going to use the option of invert, which has now selected everything around the outside but the text. We're then going to go up to our layers and go back to the top layer. Go to your colors and double tap in the top left hand corner to select white. Then go back to your layer, and you on that top layer tap on it and use the option of fill. Now it'll select everything but the text and fill it in white. What we're then going to do is tap on that layer and use the option of clipping mask, and now it's completely sort of disappeared. But then we're going to grab our cursor, and if we zoom out of our canvas using the outside area, we're going to want to go ahead and use the option of uniform and then bring this down to the bottom right hand corner a little bit. Now what you can do is in the bottom right hand corner, you can simply just tap a few times once you've got a bit of a distance from your canvas, and you're going to start to bring in some more of that white. Every time you tap, you move it across a pixel, and by doing that we start to add in a bit more of sort of an edge highlight on that left hand side. So once you've done that, I've moved it across sort of that amount you can see now. We're then going to go up to our layer options for that layer, tap on it and use the option of overlay. Again, that will really start to add in a really strong highlight from that left hand side, and then you can tap away. We're then going to create a new layer again, and we're going to tap on that layer and also clipping mask it just so we stay within the lines. We're then going to do a little bit of manual highlights now, so we're going to go up to our brush library. We're going to go to our option under calligraphy. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom until you get to the script brush. Then we're going to go ahead and let's make our brush size something about 8 or 9%, looks pretty good size wise. Every time there's a big area here, we're simply just going to start adding in some highlights. So our highlights are coming from the left hand side and hitting the left edge. So you don't want to add a highlight here, for example. What you want to do is start to add in a highlight here. And it's up to you how many you want to add in. I'm just going to sort of replicate the edge of the text and then just leave some gaps here and there. It'll add to a more liquefy effect. In the really skinny parts, it's up to you if you want to add just a very light bit like that, or just simply use it in the brighter, bigger areas. something like those ones. So we're just going to simply just make our way down all the text in this sort of liquid area down the bottom and just add in some highlights. And you can see, as long as you sort of roughly follow the edge of the text, you don't have to be too specific with this. You can just run these highlights around the edges where you feel fit. And it's quite a quick process. So we just add in a more liquid effect. And as you can see, I start off quite lightly a lot of the time and then press a lot firmer just to add in a nice thick part to the highlight. And this is to create that sort of liquid look to it. So just run that very skinny highlight there, moving across, press firm in the thick areas and then just let that run out. Now everybody's text at this point is going to look different, so yours may be shorter or longer than mine, but we can just simply all follow along with the process and apply it to our own styles and design. I'm always starting very lightly at the top, just adding in this sort of big glossy look to it. We're going to add a little layer effect to this in a second as well. I just want to emphasize some of this liquid look. If you're enjoying the video up until now, please drop a like down below, helps the channel out an awful lot. Let's just add in a few more of those little highlights. I'm not going too far up towards the text, but you can get an idea here for how much I've added in, and it's up to you if you do really want to just go into a lot of these extra little sections and just add in little highlights here and there. But as long as you cover the majority of the design like I have, you should be good to go. So now we're going to go ahead and go to our layer options for this layer, tap on it and use the option of overlay as well. Again, that will really gloss up those edges and you can see we've got a nice reflective look to that edge. Now what we want to do is, because there's a lot of lighting coming in, we also want to emphasize some shadows, but we can't because we've got a black background at the minute. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our layers, create one new layer and drag it all the way underneath everything. If we then go back to our brush library and use the option under airbrushing, we're going to use the option of soft brush. And if we go to our palette, there's a grey tone in the very bottom left hand corner of it. What we're going to do is we're going to start to just very lightly paint that in the top left hand corner. That will give us the sort of illusion that there is a light source there, and when we add a shadow in a second, it will nicely sort of drop onto that grey, and there you've got a nice contrast to actually see the shadow. So we're going to increase our brush size to about 30% in the top left hand corner, circular motion very lightly and pressing a bit sort of firmer in the corner, and then as I get further and further out, as I keep layering on top of myself, I'm just pressing even lighter. And that's all you want to do. It's sort of going from here to here and then round, and that's sort of a light source coming from the top there. Next, if we go up to our layers, let's add the shadow in. So we go to our layers, we go to the actual original text layer, and if you swipe it to the left and duplicate it, you'll get an extra one at the bottom. Now we want to work on the bottom one, don't work on the top one. Go up to your colors and double tap to select black at the bottom of the disk. Go back to that layer, and because it's still alpha locked, tap on it and use the option of fill. If it's not alpha locked, just simply tap on it and alpha lock it. But you do need to turn it off once you're done. So once you've filled it in black, tap on it and turn off the alpha lock. What we're then going to do is we're going to go to our adjustments and we're going to go to motion blur. Now this one, the direction that you push is the direction of your shadow. And because our light source is coming from here, we just want to push in that direction. And then if I zoom right in, you can see we've pushed a shadow that way, but also that way. We're not concerned about it going that way because we're going to actually move the entire layer in a second. But as long as you get that angle, you'll be good to go. So I've gone up to about 23%. You could probably redo that, to be honest with you, and go a little bit less than that. Maybe something around about 18%. That looks good to me, angle wise. I'm then going to grab my cursor and using the uniform option, if you zoom out, you want to bring that shadow edge completely behind the text. So just moving it down to the bottom right. If I zoom back in for you, you can see now we've got rid of the shadow up here and just emphasized the shadow even more on the right hand side. And if you want to, you can zoom out just to get it sort of pixel perfect. You can just tap in the bottom right hand corner as I taught you earlier and move it along to the right hand side. Tap on your cursor when you're done. And if you pinch with 2 fingers and go full screen with 4, you'll end up with today's finished design. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, drop a like down below, helps the channel out an awful lot. And be sure to tag me in your designs over on Instagram. There's links to all my socials in the description down below. If you're new here, I post Procreate content every single week, so hit that subscribe button. And shout out to all my patrons. You can get access to even more tutorials every single month by joining my Patreon. There's a link in the description. And if you're interested in any of the equipment I'm using, the Sketchboard Pro, the Paperlike screen cover, or the pen tips, grip and glove, there's a link to everything in my equipment list, and you can use code Joel.create for 10% off of your Sketchboard Pro. And with all that said, I'll see you in the next one.